the layoff happened literally the day before my birthday.
Did you see it coming?
Honestly, it coincided me because they told me I was due for a promotion. So they're like, yo, you're going to get this promotion.
Yeah.
And they did. They promoted me to CEO of my own company, I guess.
Okay, world, planet Earth, wherever you're from, we've got today's guest on Beyond the Linear. He went from spinning tracks as a DJ to building AI solutions for market research giants in Canada. He taught himself how to code and got laid off in 2023 and said, F it, I'm going to start my own company. He's on a mission to be the AI contractor for consulting firms everywhere. So from
So,
Toronto, please welcome my friend Matthew Stanley from, I love this name, Made by Good Youths. If
yes,
you know, you
yes.
know.
If you're from Toronto, if you're from the Caribbean, you know. Yo,
Let's go.
I really appreciate you having me. And also I really appreciate the intro, man. You make me sound like I'm really somebody.
He's a guy. He's a guy. A geyser.
Guy.
Man, I was just thinking. So we met in Tulum, Mexico in 2022 through our friend Tin, right? Shout out to Tin for that
Shouts
connection.
out to 10.
And I remember that was a really good time. I might drop a picture on here of that time.
Right,
That
the
was
vibes.
like that was a top 5 for sure time in my life. And I
It was
remember
a great
vaguely,
trip.
yeah. What do you remember about it?
Man, I just remember like the main things was like we had the ATVs and we were just everywhere in Tulum. Like
Yeah.
literally we had our freedom. Everybody hopped on an ATV and if you wanted to go to the store, you just go to the store. If we're going to the beach, let's just go to the beach. And like that freedom to be in a different country, obviously that area is very safe. So to be able to just go out and go wherever you want in that area, like I just love that. And then obviously the connection you made with the guy at the cafe who took us to the cenotes and to gave us a tour. That was
Yeah.
such a great like connection.
Yeah, it was great. And he was just running a coffee hut on the beach. That was crazy. I remember coming back and I'm like, I want to live in Tulum. And for a while, I was like setting my sights on it. Didn't happen
Hmm.
yet, but it is. Hey, I'm in Brazil, so I'm not
You're
mad.
in Brazil. You're exploring right now. That's the thing. No, I'm gonna say like I'm based in Toronto and the weather right now, today's a good day. Like it's above seasonal, but it's only 9 degrees. You're gonna get sunlight for a couple of hours, and then after that, it's dark and cold. So you're in the right spot right now, man.
And I remember vaguely back then talking to you. I don't remember how we connected, but I was in the crypto space back then. And I think you might have been as well. I don't,
Yeah,
and
for
you were
sure.
you were playing around with it. You just had a very technical background, and I remember sharing that. So how did that end up? Like, are you still in the crypto space? I mean, we're both in the AI space now, but were you deep in crypto back then?
At that time, I was learning blockchain programming because like that's where I wanted to. I was really fascinated with blockchain and like the capabilities that it had. The core distributed ledger, like I just found it interested in it. The fact that like everyone can keep each other in check. The system's all it's distributed. So I got into coding. I learned Solidity. I was like, I'm gonna build blockchain apps, and then basically the crypto winter happened and the attention left. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? Like one thing I've learned in life is like you're gonna make money wherever the attention is. And I saw the attention shift from blockchain to AI, and I was like, I gotta be in that space. And that's
Wow.
kind
Hold
of
on,
like
hold
what
on.
redirected it.
Let's rewind here because I want to know your origin story. What were you doing back in 2022, even in Tulum? And then how did you get into AI?
Yeah, so like my real origin story into programming is like super interesting. It's very like off the beaten path. My past life, like all I wanted to be was a DJ. Like that's all I thought about. Like from since I was a kid, because my dad used to have a DJ set. His brothers, they used to DJ all the house parties, block parties. Like they were the one controlling the environment with the music. And I just loved it. So like as a kid, I used to see the vinyl records and used to want to play with the turntables. And for the longest, like that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah. Was this
And
in
I did it.
Toronto?
This was when I lived in New York at the time. So I lived in New York, I lived in Atlanta, and then moved to Toronto. And I was a DJ in Toronto. Like I was on the college radio station. I had a Friday slot. First it was 4 p.m. to 5, and then they expanded it to from 6 to 8 p.m. every Friday. And yeah, I had a show. We used to have like guests like that are popular now. Like, you're from Toronto, so like For Ya Entertainment. I was their first radio interview. Wonder Girl Beats. I was her first radio interview. Havaya Mighty, who recently won like a whole bunch of like Polaris Awards in Canada. I was her first radio interview.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Why'd you
so like,
leave the industry?
you know what it is? Really, as this next younger generation came into their like partying age, I DJ'd a prom, and this was like 2017. And these kids, they were partying, but they got tired in an hour. Like literally an hour, they were done. They're tapped out. And I was just like, if this is what's to come, like the future generation, like
Damn.
I was like, because they partied and then they started to leave the dance floor. So I asked one of them, I was like, yo, is the music not good? Like I could switch this up. And he's like, no, you're killing it. We're tired. And then they all were just on their phone. And I was like,
2017, my man saw the writing on the wall.
I saw it. I was like, if this is the future of nightlife or partying, like this is not why I got into this game, you know?
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right. And what at that same time, I had an idea for an app and I didn't have anyone to build it. My brother was going to school for computer science. I had a friend that was a software engineer, but they didn't have the time to actually commit to this application. And at the time, I would say it was kind of like Eventbrite. That was like Eventbrite was very new at that time, but like we were building a Toronto version of it where I wanted to provide more data and insights to nightclubs because I was inside of these clubs DJing and I found that promoters would say, you know, we can bring 20 guys, 20 girls or whatever, or, you know, I can make sure I get 50 people in the door every night, but there was no way to really verify those stats. And even the bar or like the clubs, they didn't track like how much an average person would spend on a nightly basis. They didn't track how these people found out about these parties. And I'm just like, there's a data gap here that like could be really useful to your businesses. And I wanted to build an app for that. And because I didn't have anyone else to do it, I was like, I'm going to teach myself to code. And that's how I got into
Let's
coding.
go. So was DJ the full-time gig? Because I mean, I imagine if you're on radio shows, you were getting some income stream from that.
Yeah. So I was a full-time DJ. I used to DJ about 3 times a week. And then doing the radio show. And I used to pay enough for the bills. It wasn't like crazy amount of money. I did start a company with some friends to have like a basically like a promotions company. So we
Yeah.
would go to different venues, book them out, and then, you know, try to throw a party in there. And we
Wow.
made good money on the first couple of events, but then for whatever reason, there was like friction between some of the members and it kind of like fell apart.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were young. We were like early 20s and stuff. Like this is like some of our first forays into business, right? So
Yeah.
it kind of fell apart from there, but I did it for a while and then I was like, you know what? Like I actually enjoyed coding. Like it was from my standpoint, I was still being a creator. I was able
Yeah.
to get an idea, go to the computer, code it out, and then see it
Yeah.
live on the internet, which I thought was like so dope. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna lean into this more.
Yeah. So that started what year in
2017 is when I started learning how to code.
2017. So, and then you had this idea for an Eventbrite. And for those that don't know what Eventbrite is, correct me if I'm wrong. It's the place where if there's an event, it's probably hosted on that site, and that's where I can buy my tickets. If it's
Yeah.
like a weekend party, or I think some concerts or conferences, things like that.
Conferences, any kind of
Yeah.
events. Now you'll see things like just meetups having tickets on Eventbrite and stuff. But like when I had this idea, I originally pitched it to my friend in like 2015, 2016, and Eventbrite was just super new at that time. So we were like, we have an opportunity here still to
Yeah.
like break into this space. It just so happened that they didn't have the time to commit to it. And I was like, all
I
right, then
see.
I got to
And
learn how to
then,
do this.
yeah. And then 2017 Eventbrite. Did you get into crypto back then? You got into blockchain programming. So how long did that
Yeah,
last?
so it's kind of crazy. I was interested in crypto since 2013. Every time I would visit my friend that used to live on King Street, I would see a Bitcoin ATM in one of the convenience stores. And I
Yeah.
was like, yo, what is this? I keep seeing it every time I come out here. What is Bitcoin? So then I Googled it and I saw that it was like a digital currency at the time.
Yeah.
And my friend who was a software engineer, he was like the smartest tech person I knew at the time. And I was like, yo, what is Bitcoin? And he was like, you know, it's digital currency. He told me, he's like, it's fake. Don't buy it. Don't buy into that. So I pull up the numbers and I'm like, it's only $300. Like, what am I going to lose by just buying one?
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, don't waste your money. And like, I was trying to reason with him. I was like, bro, we go to the bar and spend $300. Why can't I just like, he's like, yo, you're going to lose your money.
Where
And to
is
this
it?
day,
Yeah. Drop his
to
name
this,
right now. I'm just
yo,
kidding.
he knows who he is. He knows who he is. And to this day, I always remind him, like, he'll send me like messages about the price. And I'm like, bruh, we could have been buying Bitcoin every weekend instead of going to the bars. We could have been set. We could have
Yeah.
been living the life. But
Uh-huh.
I was always interested in it. And then 2017, 2018, it had that spike again. And I was like, okay, I was onto something there. Let me start researching it. And first I just researched it from like a investor standpoint, like which coins to buy and stuff like that. But then eventually I was like, I should really try to understand this because clearly there's an interest here. Again, people are paying attention to this. That means there's an opportunity. Maybe I can build something or get involved with people that build in this space and make some money off of it.
Mhm. And did that happen?
So I actually ended up joining a group of people. We were going to build a social financing app. And the best way to describe it is we know there's a lot of people who are unbanked or don't have access to credit, especially immigrants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They might come to Canada, North America, and they have no credit or low credit because they're starting from scratch. But they have communities that know them and trust them and maybe believe in them. We were building a platform where people can pool their money in together and loan it out to individuals at interest rates. And they can decide their own terms for the payments, decide their own terms for like the interest, so on and so forth. And we were building out a smart contract platform for that. I was with a team of guys, and that also didn't end up working out. I think the team that I was with, they were too junior at the time. It was very young guys. They didn't have enough experience as far as even just like pitching the idea. We went to conferences and I would like, no knock to them, but like I would see how when people interacted with them, they didn't understand the product. But then when I would converse with them and say like, this is a social lending platform. People
Mhm.
put their money in this platform. They can decide who they're going to loan it out to. We're going to
Mhm.
have built-in credit checks in the system. If someone doesn't pay back on time, people can verify that it wasn't paid back on time and it's going to mark their credit score in the system, you know? And I found that I was able to explain it a lot more. People were able to understand it better than my
Yeah.
team. But I also was the lead person building it. And I was just like, I
You're
can't
doing
do
everything.
everything.
Yeah.
So
You're not Superman, like that.
exactly, exactly. So I was like, you know what? I need to focus on my company at this point. And that was more like that was around the same time, like 2022-ish, that
Yeah.
I was building that product with these guys.
That's okay. And so we went to Tulum that same year, April 2022, and then ChatGPT released November 30th of that
Yeah,
year, 2020.
yeah.
Did you first hear of ChatGPT when it released, or what was how did you get into, first of all, you got laid off in 2023. So did you have a job back then?
Yeah. So I was working as a developer for a company out here. And I started that in 2018.
Wow. Okay.
So after I started learning to code, my brother was working at this company and he's like, yo, we need more staff. Apply. That's all he told me. He's like, just apply. And I was like, all right, what I got to lose? Like transitioning from DJing to coding. Like it's a job. Let me just apply. And they liked me in the interview, even though I didn't have the technical, like all the technical skills. I think they
Yeah.
saw that like I was really gonna try to get better. And that's what ended up happening. I'll be honest, when I started, I sucked. Like I made so many mistakes. But
Damn.
one thing about me is that like I'll learn from my mistakes and I try not to make the same mistake twice. So like I just kept learning, putting together systems for myself to make sure I don't make the same mistakes, and then putting in time after work to like just get better as a developer. And then eventually, I got promoted in my role. Eventually I became a team lead, technical lead. So every year I was just moving up and moving into different teams
Yeah.
consistently. And then the layoff happened literally the day before my birthday. This is 2023, where essentially they moved our team to Mexico.
Wow.
This was like because this is right after the pandemic too. So they realized like remote work can work. And why not get more affordable developers that are in the same time zone? Because it's a Toronto-based company. So
Damn.
they moved a majority of the team to Mexico, and my team basically got laid off, essentially.
Mexico. Wow. I hear of Pakistan being good for I didn't hear of Mexico being good for developers.
They focused on Latin America. So it was like Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Latin American countries.
What was that like? Did you see it coming?
Honestly, I didn't. It kind of blindsided me because they told me I was due for a promotion. So they're like, yo, you're going to get this promotion.
Yeah.
And they did. They promoted me to CEO of my own company, I guess.
Yeah, I like that.
I got
Very
laid off and
fun.
ended up the CEO of my company.
Let's go. And were you using AI back then? I mean, ChatGPT released November 30th, 2022.
Yeah, so
Were
we were talking about it a lot, but we weren't actively using it. So once I got laid off, I was like, okay, let me lean into this. Let me start trying this out, figure out what I can do with it. And at the same time, I'm trying to figure out like for myself, what am I gonna do? Like I got laid off out of nowhere. I wasn't ready for this. Like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, you know what? I can always build websites. But as I talked to different companies about like either revamping their websites or doing web work for them, they would ask like, what do you know about AI? And
How did you
I was like,
find these companies?
word of mouth, really, honestly. People that knew that like this is what I was doing. I was trying to build a business around building websites. They would recommend me to their coworkers or former coworkers. And as I had these chats with like conversations with them, they all brought up AI. And I was like, again, that's the spot right there. They keep bringing it up. Forget about the websites. Like you said, there's somebody in Pakistan who could do it for cheaper. But this AI stuff, the thing that set me apart from a lot of people is that I'm able to convey a lot of the technical jargon in a way that the average person can understand. So that's why I was able to get a lot of contracts early on. They literally said like, there's bigger companies that we can go to, but you explain it in a way that we actually understand. And that's why we
Wow.
want to go with you.
Let's go. So talk to
Yeah.
me about that first client. How did you land the first one that was like, yeah, I'm doing this?
Yo, I landed two at the same time. Like, it's kind of crazy. I went to a conference. At this conference, they had a lunch, and I just so happened to be sitting with just a random group of people. So we're all just introducing each other, talking, and they started talking about AI. And
What kind of
again,
conference is this? Is it for developers? Is it for
this was a tech conference in
okay,
Toronto. It's BPTN, I think. And it's focused more so to Black people in tech. So
sure.
yeah, so like, and it's a free conference, and like RBC's there, TD Banks there, all these financial institutions especially are there looking for talent to hire. So I'm there sitting at this table. One woman works for the government of Ontario. Another guy, he also works for the government of Ontario. There's another developer there, and then there's this one woman that works for a consulting firm. So we're all just chatting and stuff. And based on the conversation, it was kind of clear that I knew the most about AI. And I was talking, and like as some of the members started to leave, this one woman sat with me. She's like, "Can you break some of this stuff down for me?" And this was the woman that worked for the consulting firm. So I told her everything I knew. And she's like, "You know what? We're trying to integrate AI into we want to build an AI based application for our consulting firm. Do you think you can do that?" And of course, I'm looking for work. So I'm going to say yes.
Damn, okay,
I'll
that
figure it out later.
what was the thing that she asked you to break down?
Okay, so it was more so about like the models and how to deploy, like how to like, okay, they understood they can use Chat GPT, but how could they use it in an application for themselves instead of having to go onto the website? How can they have Chat GPT in their system?
Uh, I see. And
Uh,
you knew that already back then.
yeah, I was just like, like as a developer, you know that there's an API where you can build out a script, put it online, and just basically connect to the API where now your app will converse with ChatGPT in the backend. So because I was familiar with the document, I had already built a simple ChatGPT app. I knew how it worked. So I was able to explain to him like this is a cloud, like ChatGPT is cloud based. So you don't have to host it on your own servers. It's not on premises. We can just connect to it. But if you want more security, then we have to go these steps in order to have something like ChatGPT on your own system in a tight, what they call is air gapped, so like the data doesn't leak.
Mm,
And she was just like, you know what, like I want to continue the conversation. I'll connect you with the company founder and we'll go from there. And I
damn.
met with them. They pitched me their idea. I can't go into too much details about it because I had to sign an NDA about this one.
Yeah, yeah. Hold on. Let me slow it down right here because
Yeah, okay.
this is what I like. I love the sales side of things. Now you're walking into closing a deal. Bro, how are you feeling at this point? You're like, damn, do you even know how much money you're gonna say at the end of the call? Like, walk me through like
Okay,
what
the
went on.
sales part. So of course, being a developer, I didn't have a strong sales background. I was the guy that's just behind the computer coding. Like that was my whole life. So I did research. I looked up competitors. I tried to see what they were charging for what kind of work. I also
Yeah,
asked ChatGPT. I was like, this is something I'm trying to build. Here's the requirements. How much should I charge for this? And I looked at the pricing and I was like, okay, I might have to, this is my first client. I might have to charge less for this because I don't have I don't have any experience, any proof that I've built something like this before at the time, other than the one simple ChatGPT app. So let me price it a bit lower and hopefully I can put in a lot more hours to make this work. Cause
yeah.
I basically charged them like a flat rate. I was like, these are all the phases. I'll complete each phase and then you pay at the end of it at delivery kind of thing.
At the end of each phase. Sweet.
Exactly.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So then that's what it was. And they thought about it. And the first client I had, when I saw that they accepted the price right away, I was like, I should have charged more. Yeah, I
Yes.
gotta charge more.
Yo, yesterday's price is not today's price. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And then the second client, they were a referral. So I did some website work for one company, a market research company, just basic stuff like revamping their website. I did that for them. They liked how quickly I was able to turn around the work and how attentive I was to it. And they referred me to another market research company because I guess they all get together. They're all friends and stuff like that, these conferences. And they was like, you should talk to Matthew. Matthew's pretty good. So I met with them. First, it was for their website revamp. But then again, they asked about AI. And I'm like, again, I got to focus on this. So I attacked that opportunity, pitched it to them, or basically we had an in-person meeting with them and their staff. And I just listened to all their problems, took all the information, sat down or created a proposal, thought about ideas, thought about solutions, and pitched them their own custom solution. And at the time, their issue was we do surveys. A lot of it, the screener surveys are online because we do market research. We want to get a bunch of people to fill out these surveys and then have them participate in a live in-person study. The problem was they were sending email blasts to every single person in their database, whether they person actually qualified or not.
Mm-hmm.
And what that led to was a low click rate, basically. Like less than 5% of their respondents would actually open the survey. So I was like, we can fix this with AI. We can actually smart target your customer base based on the answers and responses that you already have.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, let's build out a system that can collect your survey responses. And then you can use natural language to search for the type of people you want. Do you want people that have pets? Do you want someone who says they drive a Lamborghini? Someone who shops at, Shoppers Drug Mart? Like they can type that in and it would just retrieve those respondents. And then they
Yeah.
can use that list of respondents to smart target them. So one thing that I learned through this process is that when people sign up to participate in these surveys, they answer a bunch of questions about themselves. Like they give a lot of their like life information. Like some market research companies, they know your medical history based on the questions you answer, because
Yeah.
the market research company might do studies on like different medicines, or doctors might want like, like you said, like I said, a study about certain treatments,
Yeah.
if you're a cancer patient and you did X, Y, and Z, how did that go? Stuff like that. So they had a lot of data, but they couldn't even truly utilize it. And that's something that like AI really provides a great return on investment, is like if you have a lot of data, it can parse through that data quickly for you.
Interesting. So, and I'm just curious, where would people typically get these surveys? Is this at the doctor, or I guess it's all over?
So they had a whole they had a campaign where, or they had multiple strategies to recruit people, essentially. One is social media. So they'll post on social media like, here's a link to this survey, see if you qualify. If you qualify, you can get paid X amount of dollars for the live study, kind of thing.
Okay.
And these market research studies, they pay well for your time. Sometimes you'll participate for an hour and you'll get $150, $200, stuff like, depending on the study, right? So people will see that and then be like, okay, I'll just fill out this initial survey, which was the one that like basically was the recruitment survey. Let me get to know you, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then from there, once they're in the system, they'll receive the emails. There's
Just
some
trying to
people that
So this is what, your third client? I guess, how was that experience, this market research experience, different from your first two clients?
So my first client, okay, this one is different because the first two were like cloud based. So I was connecting to like ChatGPT API. I was deploying their apps on Google's platform. This market research company was completely different because they said the data we have private information. It's identifiable. We have people's names. We have their address, postal code. Like we've never had a data leak, and we don't want this new app to be the cause of a leak.
Damn.
So what ended up happening was I was like, okay, we got to create an on-premises AI system that it doesn't leave your firewall. Like only your team has access to this thing. And I had to do my research on it, like what AI models would be able to run on the servers that they had. It wasn't okay, how can I explain this? Okay, cloud providers, they have such a vast infrastructure that it's like, imagine a train. A train has so many cars where they can seat people.
Mm-hmm.
There's like local on-premises servers are like comparing trains to cars. A car is small, compact, and at most you're going to fit like 4, maybe 7 people if you have an SUV. And you have to think differently when deploying these things, because cloud providers, you can have millions of people using these apps. One server can only handle a certain amount of requests before it gets overloaded. It's like, think
Wow.
of your laptop. Your laptop can only do so much. Eventually, if you're running too many programs, the fan starts going, it starts freezing, you can't do anything. That was the biggest challenge with this market research company was they didn't even have they didn't have a server that was actually really strong enough to run AI models and AI databases. And I had to figure out still how to make it work.
Damn. Did you change or did you advise them to change their servers or did you just work with what they have?
So I did mention, I was like, you guys need, because they have a CPU. I'm like, you need a GPU for AI, but let's at least give it a shot to see if we can get these models to run on a CPU. And I did my research. I saw there were some that were specialized or they call it like quantized for CPUs. And I was like, all right, here's a list of these. Let's try them out, see the performance. One, maybe the first one we tried, it took 5 minutes to give one response. And I was like, this is not practical. We tried some other ones, got down to one that took about 25 seconds. And they were like, that's okay. Because if we ask it for what we want and it gives us back the results in about 25 seconds to a minute, that's fine as long as we get the results. We're not in a super rush. And it's not like they're having back and forth conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, started working towards that, setting that up. And then also the database, an AI-based database also should have a GPU, but I deployed it on their CPU. And that was a challenge. I had to make sure that I controlled the stream and flow of data. How quickly do requests get sent? Some requests, I remember the first time I tried it again, it took 10 minutes for one request to complete, like a data upload. And I was like, okay, someone's sitting here looking at a screen for 10 minutes. How can I at least visually let them know that this is still working? Right? So it's like, it's a whole bunch of like engineering to try to get this to work in a way on a system that's not meant to handle this kind of,
Yeah. Wow. Damn. It sounds like you're really in depth with these projects and you're getting a ton of good experience. And what is this now? Like just less than 2 years of just being
yeah,
like, I'm going to get into
yeah,
AI.
yeah.
So I imagine it's so different now. And there's this topic of vibe coding. Like I've even tried it to try to build an N8N workflow. It took me
Mhm.
like 17 hours, but we did it. What's your take? Do you do it? What are the pros and cons of that?
So vibe coding is like, I love the idea of it. I love the idea that you can just type in what you want and hopefully you get exactly what you asked for. The thing is, the AI models they're not good enough yet. I'll just say that. The systems aren't good enough yet where it's going to give you exactly what you want from one prompt, two prompts, three prompts. It's going to take some time.
Interesting.
I use coding assistance 100%. Like I rely on it now heavily where I'll go if there's a new feature, let's say a client says we want to build out a new feature, I'll do a type in, hey, we're supposed to do X, Y, and Z. Let's build out a requirements document. Let's think this through. Let's think about security. Let's think about performance. How is it going to look? Like I do all my planning with AI and then I use Cursor, by the way. That's like a code editor for those that don't know. More than likely, developers are going to use Cursor, GitHub, Copilot. Some people use Claude as well. Codex is very, very popular, but I use Cursor because at least I still get access to the code. And if I got to make any adjustments, I can go in and manually code it. So yeah, Cursor has great features of like being able to plan out everything you're going to do. You get to review the document. You tell it how you want to plan, and then you press build. And you just leave it alone. It starts building everything. And when it's done, you get to review all the work. Does it work 100%? No. I've never had it build something and 100% it works. But it's getting you to like 80% in like
Yeah.
less than 10 minutes.
Yeah. That yeah, that's similar to even like copywriting when I use it for marketing and sales and scripts. It gets you 80% of the way there and then it needs that human element to just put your
Yeah.
take on it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. But
So
I mean,
what's your Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, they're like these vibe coding tools are like Lovable, Bolt. I'd seen Google release their new version of Gemini, which is supposed to be good. Like they're gonna get there eventually, where if you're specific enough, it's gonna build exactly what you want.
Yeah.
It's just not there yet. It's 80%.
Well, one of the things that's super important now is prompts. And I think we had a conversation about this before the call. You were saying that AI is a bit easier on prompts because one of the things I learned before these updates or ChatGPT 5 is if you have a specific enough prompt, you assign it a role, you give it examples, you give it an output and a specific input, you give it some notes, you even threaten it, you tell it you're going to ship it to Russia or
Yeah.
you put it in a box. How different is that now? And that's one question. And two, can you use that same framework for coding? Like if I gave a specific enough framework for the thing to code, would it spit out a decent enough output?
Yeah. Okay. So to address your first question, as these new AI models come out like GPT-5, Gemini 3, they're making it easier for the everyday person to prompt or basically ask what you want in natural language and to get the result. So like you mentioned, back in the day, let me say back in the day, it's like 6 months ago, you would have like assign it a role, give it a lot of context, threaten it. Like some people threaten the AI models. I won't take that risk because they're gonna remember that whenever they take over the world.
Yeah.
But like you give it, you may threaten it. There was just a bunch of different strategies to try to get the specific output. Now with each new model, like they make it easier where you don't have to do that. I do still suggest giving it a role, tell it how to think. I do suggest trying your best to give it examples of the output that you want and being as clear as possible in the instruction. I think that's probably going to be around for a while because if you're not specific in the instruction, the AI will just come up try to fill in the gaps. And even myself, I've experienced where it will build like if I'm trying to build a feature, it would add stuff, which is nice that it's thinking to add things, but I'm like, I didn't even want that. So now you got to take some time to like cut that out kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I do believe in still trying to provide specific prompts, but you don't have to do those long prompts that we were doing like 8 months ago, 6 months. They've gotten a lot better. The documentation for ChatGPT GPT-5 even says like you don't got to do all that anymore.
Okay. It says you don't got to do all that. Why?
Yeah,
Why?
like
Can you break it down for us?
it was just like they realized that people were taking like just prompt engineering was a lot of work. And they were like literally in their documentation was like, we want to make this easier for the everyday person. So we've built out internally our systems where I guess because it's a thinking model, like it's going to think before it actually codes. And I'm sure with their system prompts, it's like, okay, here's the request. How should I think? So if someone's asking me a finance question, how should I think as a model? You know? So
Mhm.
it's doing that legwork in the background for you so that you can just prompt and not take 30 minutes to come up with like a prompt. You can just,
Yeah.
whatever comes to your mind, provide the details and pass it on.
Here's another question. One thing I do a lot now, I would say 80% of my inputs into ChatGPT are just hitting that mic button and just talking. And
Yes.
of course, I want to
Yes.
just lay it out with role and all that. I try to do that as best, but sometimes I just spaz at the thing and just be like, here you go. And it's give me good results. But what's your advice on that? Or do you have any thoughts about that?
I love the fact that these AI providers are leaning into the voice stuff, like allowing people to send voice notes to the AI and either transcribes it or you can have the conversation with it. Because like for me as a developer, like it's faster than typing. Like I type at a decent speed, but the speed of thought to speech is way faster. So I genuinely like I love it. I lean into it. I suggest like if you haven't tried like let's say ChatGPT, like having a conversation with it, do it. It's such an interesting experience to converse with essentially like a computer and to get all these ideas and have it talk back to you in a natural language as well.
Wow. Yeah, I just learned that yesterday because it's different from conversation mode to hitting the mic button, having it transcribed, and then responding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it is different. Sometimes, like for me, I pick and choose. So if I'm brainstorming, a lot of times I'll just put on the conversation mode and we'll have a chat. But if there's something where I want to really, how can I put this? If there's something where the data or the information I need from the AI, like I need to really absorb it, I'm going to do the transcribe version where I just hit the mic button, say what I gotta say, and then maybe edit the text before sending it, and then having it provide that data in a way that I can read. Because at the end of the day, for me, still like reading, I comprehend things a lot better when I read it. Even though like conversations are great and I understand conversations, obviously, just being able to read it slowly and comprehend what's being provided to me, it's a difference. Like I feel like I really understand things when I sit down and take my time to read it. So it depends on what the request is that like I decide whether I'm going to go to conversation or just either type it or transcribe my voice.
Yeah, that's it's cool to hear your practical take, especially from a guy with such a technical background. What how do you differentiate between using the different LLMs like Claude? I know is good. For me personally, I like it for copywriting and its style, and I
Hmm.
don't have experience on the coding, but I heard it's good for coding. Perplexity obviously for research, and I hear social media like it can scrape Reddit threads, it can scrape
Hmm.
kind of what you're saying online. ChatGPT is just kind of the generic blanket,
Yeah.
that's what I use. But what's your experience?
I feel like you just hit the nail on the head. Like, you know what you're doing. Like, exactly. Claude is better for writing. ChatGPT is like the general all purpose AI model. If you're not being specific in what you, let's say, like, you don't have a specific output, you just want us, you want a question answered, you can just quickly go to ChatGPT. Same thing for Claude and all that, but like Claude is better at writing. It was also for a while better at coding. GPT-5 came out, Codex 5 came out, and it seems like there's a bit leaning like now the Codex is a bit better than Claude. Gemini 3 came out recently, and apparently that's even better than both of them at coding. So, like you said, like if you have to know exactly what it is you want and then decide which model to go with. GPT, again, general purpose. If you're somebody who's doing a lot of copywriting, I would suggest going to Claude. Gemini, I don't have the most experience, but sometimes I'll bounce an answer from ChatGPT to Gemini just to see what Gemini says, like to verify if this is actually true.
Damn, let's go. And I know that I want to talk about, we're going to wrap this up soon, but you must probably see a lot with AI and businesses implementing it, especially that you have the experience now. What are the most common mistakes that businesses make when they try to integrate AI, and talk about some of the best practices too that lead to them getting the return that they're looking for in ROI, whether that's time, money.
Yeah, the biggest mistake that I see businesses make is like they rush into AI. They don't think about what they actually need. They kind of just like, AI is a hot topic. We need to put AI into every single thing we do. Everything we do, it's AI. And they don't even know what the output or what the outcome is that they want. And that's where a lot of companies like today are still making that mistake. I would suggest, like, I kind of have a mental framework when I consult with these businesses and when I plan out even tools. I have a framework that I call AIM, AIM. And it's basically, it starts out with assess, innovate, measure. And the first step, it's a 3-step process. The first step, assess, is kind of look at what you have already. Look at your systems. Review your current workflow. Review your data. Think about your staff. How open is your staff to AI? How technical, like how tech savvy is your staff? Because these are all different factors. Even thinking about who in your leadership team is going to be the champion for this. Someone has to take ownership. Someone has to say like, believe in this tool and solution or this direction that we're going to go in. Because if no one pushes the initiative, it's not gonna go anywhere, essentially. So that's the first step. Assess. Think about the business problems. Think about what's the outcome you want and how are you gonna measure it. Second step, innovate. A lot of businesses, again, when they start getting into AI, they think of it from, let me just replace each step in the workflow with AI. The thing is, when you have like an AI model or something like that, it can completely transform your workflow. So instead of you having to do 10 steps, with AI, you might only have to do 3 steps and you might get better data quality out of it. Like it might completely revolutionize that workflow. And I believe that companies need to think about, instead of how do we do this with AI, how can AI actually innovate and transform this entire workflow? The
Wow.
final letter measure is, once you have this built, you have to, again, track your metrics, whether it's quantitative, which is numbers based, right? Like, are we solving more tickets? Are we getting higher, maybe satisfaction scores? Whatever it is that you want, are you getting better because of AI, or is it doing it better? Is the data better? And then there's qualitative, which is, how do you feel about what's being done? Is your staff happier because they no longer have to do the busy work and they can actually focus on what they want to do? Are your customers happier because they're able to get quicker responses, right?
Mhm.
So those are the things, like measure your results, be detailed with it, and then once you find what's working, scale that up. Double down on
Mm.
what's working. So like 100%. If you see that, I'm using AI for customer service and we're getting good results, think about how you can even dive deeper and get better results, because that's the difference maker in the return on investment.
What do you feel like no one talks about with AI that needs to be said for you?
Man, this is a big one too. All right, from a business standpoint, no one talks about data quality. Like businesses don't think about their data quality at all. They don't know where the data is. Oftentimes, they don't know where the data is stored. They don't have a complete grasp of the structure of the data, how we're going to retrieve the data and maybe implement it in an AI workflow, or if the data quality is even good. And I'll say I learned from a mistake with one of my clients where initially I pitched saying like, we need to clean up your data first before implementing AI. And they were like, no, let's go with AI. And me being new, I was like, whatever the customer wants, they're going to get. But
Yeah.
that backfired because they started using the AI tool and they're like, we're not getting the results we want. And then I looked and I'm like, well, your data isn't good at all. Like the AI can't even find this data that you're looking for. And
When
that's where
you
like,
say the data isn't good, what does that mean?
okay, so I can use an example with like, let's say the market research company. Let's say the AI model is supposed to fetch users or fetch respondents that live in Toronto, right? Easy. The data that they had, some people will have Toronto, some people would have TO as their city, some people will have like just Tonto as a city, like they misspelled it. And of course, if an AI, like you can tell it to say, find people from Toronto, but it might come across Tonto and think that's a completely different city and not fetch that, even though that's the city that the person they just made a typo or something like that. And we saw a lot of examples where it was a bunch of typos in the data and the AI would not return the data. But I was telling them like, we need to have a plan now to clean up your data. The AI is returning what it can, but it doesn't think this is actually accurate. So that's where like, that's a big mistake people make with AI is just that they don't even think about the quality of their data before actually implementing it.
And how important is data security?
Depending on your industry, data security is like top of mind for a lot of businesses. I would say that if you have personal identifiable information, such as a person's name, address, postal code, age, anything that can identify a specific person, you got to be thinking about data security. It's easy to, I mean, I've made the mistake too early on, just like putting information straight into ChatGPT and not thinking about the security around it. But in Canada and the US and Europe, they have privacy laws. So if this data leaks and is found out like due to negligence, your business can be on the hook for this. And that's
Mhm.
where, like, for example, the market research company, we built an air gap system that no data leaves their database at all. It doesn't get sent to OpenAI. It doesn't get sent to Google. They have their database on their server. And the only way it can leak is if someone actually hacks into them.
Interesting.
It's not a third party.
Yeah. Wow. Well, dude, I appreciate your time, man. You dropped a lot of game. We went extra long, but I feel like I've absorbed a lot of the information and I wasn't talking to the dev guy in the engineering department. I felt
Right.
like I could actually understand what you were saying. So, I mean, to wrap up, like what are you excited about the next 12 months and building made by good youths?
I'm really excited about one, picking up some more clients, client base. I have so many ideas now that I have a lot more experience with these businesses. I have so many ideas of how I can help and enable a lot of small to medium sized businesses with their operations, like improving their operations using AI or even innovating and rethinking their business using AI. I see myself as, or myself and my company as like the innovation partner. I know a lot of these businesses don't have a technical lead or some, like they'll have an IT person, but it's not a developer that can build something for them or build solutions for them. I genuinely want to connect more with businesses and provide my services in a way that can help them do more with what they already have. And I want them to be able to compete with enterprise level businesses, because that's what AI can do. You can set up an AI system that possibly can improve metrics by 50%, 60%, some situations 80%. So businesses can do a lot more with these tools, and I want to be that person that connects with them and makes this happen for them.
Let's go. What kind of businesses do you envision yourself working with? I know you said small to medium size, but is there specific industry or space?
Yeah, I find that because I have the experience with the market research companies, I am probably gonna, you know, target that specific part of the or that specific industry. But also I want to connect with other like operations consultants, business consultants, and say I want to be that person in their corner that when they now pick up new clients, they can say, hey, we can service you through AI enabled. You're gonna improve your operations. I want to be their AI person that can help enable their clients with AI integration.
Go.
So That's where I see myself going,
Fire.
man.
Well, where can they find you?
Yes. So you can find my company. It's Made by Good Youths. MadeByGoodYouths. MadeByGoodYouths.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Matthew Stanley. It's a very common name. I actually have an AI newsletter that I'm building out called Actionable AI. And it's made directly for business owners, business founders, small to medium sized businesses, breaking down these new AI tools and telling them how they can actually implement it in their business. Tell them how they can try this out. This is what it can do in plain language that they can understand. So if you go on LinkedIn and also search for actionable AI, you'll find that newsletter. Sign up, subscribe. I do new articles at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. I don't want to bombard your inbox with like an email every single day. So I try to pick one topic and break it down so that business leaders can understand and think about how they can integrate it into their organization.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to connect with you.
And I'm pretty sure we're gonna end up working together somehow, some way in this space. So,
Let's make it happen, man.
appreciate you sharing what it takes to implement this stuff. It's no joke. It's no
Yeah,
joke the work you do. I don't know if the listeners realize, but damn, I'm hearing you say this stuff, and I'm like, damn, this is some heavy work. But again, appreciate you being here. I'll catch you on the next one.
very much. I appreciate it.